Emily Pierce had lived in Blushing Bridge all her life, and every cherry blossom-scented breeze reminded her how much she loved her hometown. A cluster of quaint houses lined the single main road, each trimmed with white fences and bright flower boxes. She had helped plan at least one wedding for nearly every family in town. Every time a bride walked down the aisle, Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. This place was infused with romance and old-fashioned charm, the perfect setting for fairy tale nuptials. Tiny though the community was, it boasted a robust reading culture. A brand-new local romance novel, An Unforgettable Vow, by a newcomer named Sophia Delgado, had taken Blushing Bridge by storm. Sophia had moved here only a year ago, and her book debuted to immediate local fanfare. Almost everyone Emily knew was reading it, charmed by the old-world setting and timeless love story. Copies of the novel made regular appearances on nightstands, in cafes, and, of course, in Emily's wedding planning office. Still, amid the usual swirl of wedding dresses and catering schedules, an unexpected worry settled over Emily. She sat in her office, taking careful notes on a brand-new bride's colour scheme, when a frantic knock rattled the door. It was Lily Cartwright, a client whose wedding was just 2 weeks away. "Emily," Lily gasped. "My engagement ring! I can't find it anywhere." Her voice quivered with panic. "I took it off for a quick second so the jeweller could check the prongs. After I picked it up from him, I swung by the post office, and now it's gone. Stolen, I think." Emily had no reason to doubt Lily's story. She'd known the Cartwright family since childhood, and Lily was one of the sweetest souls in town. "I'm so sorry," Emily murmured, reaching out to comfort her. "We'll figure out what happened. Let's make a list of all the places you've been, step by step." She pulled out a fresh notepad. It was pink, naturally, and they went meticulously over Lily's itinerary. But Lily's details offered few clues. She had gone straight from the jeweller to the post office, and then noticed her ring was missing. Emily called the jeweller, who insisted there was no mistake on his end. The post office clerk, a kindly older man, said Lily hadn't asked for anything beyond a few stamps and had left in a hurry. "I'll call the police to report it," Lily said, tears in her eyes. "But I just don't get it. Who would have taken my ring? Why?" As Lily departed, Emily felt a thread of concern pinch the back of her mind. Lily's ring was the 5th ring that had vanished in the last 2 months. Each theft mirrored a bizarre pattern. The ring owners had no idea when or how their rings were taken. It was always after some routine errand. The police had no leads, and each time, the ring belonged to someone whose wedding she was planning. Emily headed home after the day's consultations ended, passing the old stone bridge that arched over a meandering river, giving the town its name. She remembered that each stolen ring so far was unique. Lily's was an heirloom filigree band, while another bride's ring had a princess-cut diamond. Yet every story felt oddly synchronized, as if orchestrated by an invisible culprit. The local rumor mill was spinning wild theories. Perhaps it was a ring-obsessed magpie, or maybe a jewel thief from a distant city. But why target Blushing Bridge? That evening, Emily settled on her cozy couch, lamp glowing as dusk fell outside. She picked up the battered paperback of An Unforgettable Vow, which she had borrowed from the library earlier that week. She hoped the novel's dreamy narrative would soothe her mind. Flipping open to Chapter 1, she paused at its title, Blushing Bride. Her mind drifted momentarily. She remembered that the first ring heist had involved a bride only 3 days before the wedding. A coincidence, she told herself. As Emily read further, every chapter seemed to have a telling title. Chapter 2, A Secret in the Garden. Chapter 3, Hushed Promises. Chapter 4, The Bracelet's Allure. Pausing at Chapter 4, Emily felt her chest tighten. The second ring theft had happened 3 weeks ago, after that bride had purchased a delicate diamond bracelet to match her engagement ring, only to lose the ring immediately afterward. but the correlation still felt too vague. She splashed her face with cold water and tried to shake off the uneasy feeling. I'm reading too much into this, she sighed, setting the book on her nightstand. I have bigger concerns, like Lily's ring, and a half-dozen others. Yet she found herself flipping to the table of contents again, scanning each of the chapter titles, searching for a pattern. The next chapter was Lily's by the Lake. That was chapter 5. Tomorrow, Emily planned to swing by Lily Cartwright's family lake house to finalize wedding details. It couldn't be a genuine connection, could it? The next morning she drove out to the Cartwright lake house. Rows of tall pines shaded the driveway, and the afternoon sun shimmered off the serene water beyond. Lily greeted her, apologizing for her anxious meltdown the previous day. "I'm just so rattled," she admitted. "It's not the ring's cost, it's the significance. Generations of women in my family have worn that ring. Now it's gone." After finalizing the layout for the wedding arch near the water, Emily told Lily she wanted to stop by the local used bookstore on her way back. Something about the novel insisted on a second look. She was particularly curious about the next few chapters. Maybe she was imagining things, but if the ring thefts really did align with the chapter titles, the next victim or next stolen ring might appear in some unexpected context. The used bookstore, known simply as Emma's Books, was nestled between a florist shop and a small cafe. The bell chimed as Emily stepped in, the rich scent of old pages a comforting greeting. Emma, the store's owner, was perched behind the counter, sorting new arrivals. She smiled when she saw Emily. "I've got a fresh stack of romance novels, if you're looking for some wedding inspiration," Emma teased. "Actually, I'm after something very specific," Emily said. She tapped the cover of An Unforgettable Vow. "I noticed some weird coincidences regarding stolen rings around town. The titles in this book feel oddly aligned with each incident. Has Sofia Delgado, the author, been around recently?" Emma raised her eyebrows. "I saw her 2 days ago. She was returning from a reading at the library. She seemed happy enough, but who knows? Authors can be mysterious." She tapped her chin thoughtfully. "Is there something suspicious about her?" "I'm not sure," Emily admitted. "But I want to check if maybe her story was inspired by something in real life. These ring thefts are bizarre. If the pattern keeps going, I'm worried about upcoming brides." Emma directed her to a display near the window, labeled Local Authors. There were a few signed copies of An Unforgettable Vow, some with pressed flowers tucked between the pages as decorative bookmarks. A small note card read, "Sofia Delgado, new to Blushing Bridge, capturing hearts with local charm." Emily scanned the note and then the book again, paying particular attention to the chapter titles. Chapter 1, Blushing Bride. Chapter 2, A Secret in the Garden. Chapter 3, Hushed Promises. Chapter 4, The Bracelet's Allure. Chapter 5, Lilies by the Lake. Chapter 6, Late Night Rendezvous. Chapter 7, Fragrant Roses. Chapter 8, Ring of the Past. Chapter 9, Betrayal Beneath the Willows. Her pulse quickened. Lily by the Lake. Chapter 5, Stolen Ring. And soon there would be a wedding featuring a cascade of white lilies. Next, Chapter 6, Late Night Rendezvous. Emily tried to recall whether any brides-to-be in her roster had mentioned a late-night engagement, photo shoot, or anything that might fit that theme. Curiosity consumed her. She thanked Emma, purchased an additional copy of the novel to annotate, and hurried home. Sliding into her bedroom, she nearly knocked over her bedside lamp in her haste as she compared notes. She read the next passage in Chapter 5. Lilies were mentioned as symbolic of something pure, but there was an undercurrent of jealousy and hidden interference in the couple's love story. "I can't possibly be reading real theft instructions," Emily whispered to herself. "But the matches so far are uncanny." That evening, she decided to talk to the detective assigned to the case, Detective Roscoe Miller. She found him in the modest police station, surrounded by a couple of deputies and a row of old filing cabinets. Roscoe was listing the known thefts on the whiteboard. He waved her in and offered her a seat. "I've been meaning to call you," he said gravely, tapping his marker on the board. "The stolen rings are up to 5 now. Let's recap. We have Ava Wilkins, lost her ring after a lunch at the Orchards Cafe. We have Gina Morales, ring stolen at the town library. We have Lucy Erickson, ring missing after a walk through the rose garden. Then one from Harriet Donovan after a spa day. And now Lily—" He counted the names on his fingers. "Thefts all over the place. It's like the culprits picking random times or following these women or following something else," Emily ventured, sliding her copy of the novel across the desk. "Look at these chapter titles. Each stolen ring lines up with the setting or theme of these chapters. For instance, Lucy's ring was stolen after she visited the rose garden. Chapter 3 is Hushed Promises, and that entire chapter focuses on a clandestine meeting in a rose garden. Lily's ring was stolen just before an event near the lake. Chapter 5, Lily's by the lake. The Orchard Cafe is described in Chapter 2, A Secret in the Garden, which references an orchard-like setting where lovers hide. Detective Miller frowned thoughtfully, flipping through the book. "This is unusual, but not impossible. We should question Sophia Delgado." They agreed it was the best course of action. The next day, Emily arranged to meet Sophia at the Petal and Spoon, the cozy cafe that doubled as a flower shop. Sophia arrived wearing a light scarf and an apologetic smile. "I understand there have been some rumors about my book," she said, eyeing Emily's notepad. "I heard about the stolen rings. Please, ask me anything you like." Emily studied the author's expression. Sophia looked tired but calm, blonde hair pulled back neatly. "It's just that each theft seems to match a chapter setting in your novel," Emily said, trying to phrase her suspicion delicately. "It might be coincidence, but it could also be someone's using your book as a guide." Sophia looked taken aback. "My book is a love story, not a blueprint for theft." "I believe you," Emily said quickly. "But can you think of anyone who would do such a thing?" Sophia shook her head, frustration coloring her cheeks. "I moved here with dreams of writing romance in a peaceful town. I barely know anyone. However, I do have a feeling that my writing routine might have drawn some unwanted attention." She explained that she often wrote in open-air spots around Blushing Bridge, from the orchard to the rose garden, and even near the old mill by the lake. "I might have been inadvertently giving someone ideas by discussing my drafts," Sophia admitted, voice trembling. "But I swear I'm innocent." While Emily believed Sophia, she still pressed for more details. "Did you mention your ideas to anyone in particular? Did an acquaintance or a friend show special interest? Has anyone asked for advance reading copies?" Sophia thought for a moment. "Well, I do remember telling Aunt Opal from the library about my chapters. She catered some of the writing sessions with tea and cookies. And there's also Mark, the postmaster's nephew, who asked if he could read the manuscript early. But neither seemed suspicious." Thanking Sophia, Emily left feeling uncertain yet determined. If the thief was indeed following the novel's chapters, the next event would align with Chapter 6, Late-Night Rendezvous. The story described a starry night setting, a couple dancing under fairy lights near the old orchard. That orchard often hosted evening wedding rehearsal dinners. Was there one coming up? Yes, Emily had just booked an orchard rehearsal dinner for Gina Morales' cousin next week. Gina herself had already had her ring stolen, but that might not deter the culprit. The orchard area might still be the next location for a new theft. As darkness settled over Blushing Bridge a few nights later, Emily headed to the orchard. The bride and groom for the upcoming wedding were concluding their rehearsal. Twinkling lights were arranged between apple trees, casting a warm glow on the group. Emily lingered near the edges, scanning the guests. She was determined to keep watch, hoping that if the culprit attempted another theft, she might catch them. Halfway through the evening, Detective Miller arrived quietly, wearing a casual jacket so he wouldn't alarm the guests. He gave Emily a quick nod. Apparently, they had the same idea. The orchard's caretaker, Henry Lynch, had built a large wooden platform for dancing, and the sweet notes of a local guitarist filled the night air. Emily eyed each face, looking for anyone out of place. Suddenly, later in the evening, a scream rang out near the refreshments. One of the bridesmaids, Carmen, clutched her hand in horror. "My ring's gone," she cried. "I set it down for just a minute to put on lotion and— oh no, no, no!" Emily rushed over, heart thudding. Detective Miller was already there, scanning the vicinity. Carmen's mother was consoling her, and the other bridesmaids huddled in shock. As they explained, Carmen had been admiring her new engagement ring, feeling the nighttime chill drying her hands, so she slipped it off, rubbed in some lotion, and placed the ring on the table. A moment later, it was gone. Emily's eyes narrowed. "Who was nearby?" she asked, glancing round the orchard. A few people from earlier had left, so she made a mental note. Henry, the caretaker, had vanished, presumably to check the irrigation system or lock up. Another guest, a tall woman in a floral dress, was stepping away, rummaging in her purse as if searching for something. Something about her posture seemed a bit too hurried. Before Emily could investigate further, she saw Emma from the bookstore approaching with wide eyes. "I couldn't help overhearing the commotion," Emma said, sounding concerned. "Was another ring stolen?" "It appears so," Detective Miller answered. "We'll need to start conducting a search." He broke off to question the guests. Emily scoured the orchard's perimeter, looking for footprints or something dropped by a fleeing thief. She stood at the orchard's edge for a moment, enveloped in the hush of the night. Then she caught a flicker of movement behind a cluster of apple trees. Edging closer, she saw Henry the caretaker, rummaging frantically in the dark. "Henry?" Emily called softly. Startled, he spun around, knocking over a metal bucket with a noisy clang. "Emily," he forced a laugh. "You surprised me." Her eyes swept over his posture, the red flush on his cheeks. "What are you doing out here?" He held up a gloved hand. "Nothing. Just checking some orchard equipment." The tightness in his voice told her he might be hiding more. She took a tentative step forward. "The detective is looking for the stolen ring. Did you see anyone suspicious?" Henry shrugged. "Can't say I did, but all these out-of-town guests. You never know who might be a thief." He stuffed his hands in his pockets, eyes flicking away. Then he mumbled something about needing to lock the shed and hurried off. Emily exhaled slowly. Could Henry be the thief? He had access to every orchard rehearsal, and he was a local fixture. People always said Henry kept to himself, but she doubted he had any reason to steal expensive engagement rings, unless he did. Returning to the group, she spotted the tall woman departing. Her big floral hat obscured part of her face, and as she moved past Detective Miller, he shook her hand in thanks for her cooperation. Emily caught a fleeting glimpse of the woman's expression, measuring fear, or perhaps guilt. Yet she couldn't place her name. She didn't recall inviting that particular guest. That night, Emily hardly slept. Could the orchard caretaker and that mysterious woman be partners in crime? Or was the caretaker simply alarmed by the commotion? She pulled out the romance novel again, scanning chapter 6. The subtext was about longing and secrets exchanged in the shadows of a moonlit orchard. A line about hidden footprints in the dew-laden grass jumped out at her. She pictured Henry trudging around out there in the dark. The next morning, Emily received a call from Sofia Delgado. "I may have remembered something," Sofia said, voice tense with excitement. "The caretaker, Henry. I recall him eavesdropping on one of my writing sessions at the orchard. He asked so many questions about my chapters. Especially the details of the ring in chapter 8, Ring of the Past." "Henry?" Emily repeated, goosebumps prickling her arms. Why would he be so curious? "I'm not sure. He was polite enough, but seemed fixated on the jewels described in the book's plot. I brushed it off as local interest. Now it feels more sinister." It was all pointing to Henry. Yet Emily still had an itch of doubt. She decided to pay a visit to his orchard cottage. A tidy structure sat on a little rise behind the orchard. Ivy climbed the walls, and an old rocking chair perched on the porch. She knocked on the door. No response. She tried the knob, which surprisingly turned. "Henry," she called, stepping into the front room. It was neat, though dark. Sunlight filtered through lace curtains, illuminating a half-finished puzzle on the coffee table. Then, behind a large antique wooden cabinet, she spotted a framed photo propped on a small desk. Drawing closer, Emily recognized Henry, younger, with a smiling woman she assumed was his wife. He'd mentioned her a few times. Next to the photo was a copy of an unforgettable vow, open to the exact chapter with the orchard scene. A wave of unease swept over her. She moved to the cabinet, opening one top drawer. Inside she found orchard invoices, receipts, and a small cloth pouch, half hidden beneath them. With trembling hands she lifted the pouch and peered inside. Several rings glittered in the dim light. Emily's heart hammered in her chest. A sudden creak of the floorboards behind her made her spin around. Henry stood in the doorway, face pale. I can explain," he stammered, hands raised in surrender. "Put that down, please. You don't understand." "You stole them," Emily whispered, her voice shaking. "But why?" Henry's eyes brimmed with tears. "My wife got sick last year. Her medical bills drained us. Then she passed away. She'd always wanted to travel Europe with me. I planned to sell these rings to raise the money and scatter her ashes in every country she dreamed of visiting." He took a trembling breath. "I know it's wrong, but I felt desperate. I overheard Sophia's chapter ideas. Each setting gave me a perfect place to strike without suspicion." Emily's anger battled with sudden sympathy. "Henry, you hurt innocent people. You took from brides who cherished those rings." He closed his eyes. "I know. Everything got out of hand. I kept rationalizing that they all had insurance, that these were wealthy families who'd replaced the diamonds. But I robbed them of memories, and I used that romance novel's settings to cover my tracks." Emily stepped back, phone in hand. "I have to call Detective Miller. This isn't something I can just dismiss." Henry pressed his lips together, nodding miserably. "I understand. I'm so sorry." He sank to the floor, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. "At least let me give the rings back." Emily's heart twisted for him. Yet she knew justice and restitution were necessary. "That's for the police to handle," she said gently. Then she phoned Detective Miller. When the detective arrived, he took Henry into custody, collecting the stolen rings as evidence. The caretaker didn't resist. Even in handcuffs, his humiliation and remorse were obvious. Over the following days, the police returned the rings to their rightful owners. Lily Cartwright sobbed with relief when she received her heirloom band back. Carmen and the others were equally grateful. The case that had rattled the entire town was finally resolved. In the aftermath, speculation about Henry's predicament ran rampant. Many in Blushing Bridge felt torn between condemnation and empathy for his grief-driven actions. Emily found her own emotions complicated. Her family had known Henry for years, but who could have predicted such desperation lurking in a small-town caretaker? Sophia Delgado, meanwhile, struggled with guilt. "I never imagined my romantic chapters would inspire theft," she confessed when Emily visited her. "My intention was to share a story of hope, not to provide a blueprint for crime." "You gave no blueprint, Sophia," Emily assured her. "Henry seized upon coincidences in your settings. You're not at fault. And now, maybe you can turn this experience into a second novel about redemption or second chances." Sophia managed a small smile. "Perhaps. Still, I'm thoroughly shaken. I'm relieved it's over, though. Blushing Bridge can hopefully return to the peaceful place I fell in love with." As the wedding season continued, Emily managed each event with renewed vigilance. She ensured couples took extra care with their rings, encouraging them never to set them down in public spaces. Detective Miller's presence at more gatherings also deterred any lingering criminals. Though not everyone could fully relax, a sense of closure arrived along with the recovered rings. If anything, the couples felt an even stronger appreciation for their engagement bands, now that each ring's close call had emphasized its importance. Lily Cartwright's wedding day, 2 weeks later, was a dazzling affair. The old stone bridge was draped in pink blossoms, matching the blush in Lily's cheeks as she walked down the aisle. Sunlight glinted off her engagement ring, which fit snugly on her finger again. A gentle breeze carried the faint scent of flowers, and the curve of the river shimmered with promise. Emily stood off to the side, overseeing the proceedings. A small pang of relief and pride shimmered in her chest. The bride was safe, the rings were safe, and the day was perfect. After the vows and the joyful jumpstart of the reception, Lily pulled Emily aside. "I can't thank you enough," she said earnestly. "Not just for planning my wedding, but for helping to solve the mystery. You saved not only my ring, but my faith in Blushing Bridge's warmth and goodness." "Thank you for trusting me," Emily replied, tears stinging her eyes. "I'm just glad we found a resolution." In the swirl of pastel dresses and laughter, Lily rejoined her new husband, beaming from ear to ear. With the case resolved and the bride happily dancing in her new life, Emily felt for the first time in weeks free to exhale. Earlier that day, Detective Miller had told her that Henry, awaiting trial, had written letters of apology to each bride. Despite the heartbreak, Emily hoped there might be a path of redemption for him. Perhaps the town, known for second chances, would eventually extend its forgiving arms. A few days later, Emily returned home after coordinating an afternoon wedding by the orchard. Golden hour lit her living room, warm and comforting. She placed a bouquet of leftover peonies in a glass vase by the window, savoring the quiet. Her gaze drifted to the coffee table, where her marked-up copy of An Unforgettable Vow lay open. She smiled, reminded of how reality and fiction had briefly intersected in the strangest way. She picked up the book, reading the final chapter title again, A New Dawn. In Sophia's story, the couple alluded to heartbreak but ultimately found healing and fresh beginnings. Emily closed the book, feeling an echo of that sentiment in her own heart. So many couples in Blushing Bridge had endured turmoil, lost rings, bruised hopes, but they always seemed to emerge stronger. That was the DNA of this place, small but unbreakable, bridging love and community. Outside, the sun set over the old stone bridge, painting the sky in rose and gold. Tomorrow would bring another wedding, another vow, and another testament to love's capacity to endure. And if Emily was certain of anything, it was that she would greet every ring, every bride, and every challenge with the same unwavering faith that had guided her through this strange, ring-thieving mystery. After all, in Blushing Bridge, no matter how many twists the story took, love always remained at the center, glittering as brightly as the diamonds that had, at long last, found their way home.